wanted to ask you, are you not afraid of interviewing the conqueror of British Empire as you are British? You are not afraid of...
Depending on who you ask, Idi Amin is remembered as Africa's most brutal dictators, or as someone who is misunderstood, a strong man who stood up to foreign powers at a time when Africa was still shaking off colonial rule. So which one is closer to the truth? Today, we are putting emotion aside. No propaganda, no hero worship, no demonization. Just history, context, and verified facts. Idi Amin Dada, born around 1925 in northwestern Uganda during British colonial rule, had little formal education but rose through the ranks of the British military army, the King's African Rifles, where he gained a reputation as a tough, loyal, and physical, imposing soldier. After Uganda gained independence in 1962, Amin became a key figure in the new national army. In 1971, while President Milton Obote was abroad, Amin seized power in a military coup. At the time, many Ugandans welcomed the coup. Obote's government had grown unpopular, accused of corruption, repression, and ethnic favoritism. Supporters of Idi Amin often point to several actions they see as patriotic. Amin openly rejected Western political pressure, especially from Britain and Israel. He positioned himself as an anti-imperialist leader at a time when many African nations felt economically and politically controlled by former colonial powers. One of Amin's most controversial decisions was the expulsion of over 60,000 nations, many of Indian descent, from Uganda. Supporters argued that the economy was dominated by a small foreign minority. Indigenous Ugandans were excluded from business ownership. Amin claimed he was returning Uganda's wealth to Ugandans, while critics countered by saying the policy was abrupt and poorly planned. Many experienced professionals were forced out. Uganda's economy suffered a severe long-term damage. Whether seen as an economic nationalism or reckless policy depends largely on perspective. Amin positioned himself as a Pan-African figure, supporting African liberation movements and aligning with non-Western powers. To some, this made him a symbol of African resistance. To others, it was a political theater masking deeper problems. Human rights organizations estimate that between 100,000 and 300,000 people were killed during Amin's rule from 1971 to 1979. Victims included political opponents, military officers, judges, and journalists. While the exact numbers are debated, there is a broad agreement among historians that large-scale killings did occur. Amin's government relied heavily on secret police, random arrests, public execution, and unusual disappearances. Even supporters admit his regime created an atmosphere of fear that touched nearly every Ugandan family. Despite early promises, Uganda's economy started failing. Inflation skyrocketed, infrastructure crumbled, skilled professionals fled, smuggling and corruption became the new normal. The Western media portrayed Idi Amin as a madman, a cannibal, and a caricature of African brutality. Some of these stories were exaggerated or unproven. Amin himself encouraged bizarre publicity, giving outrageous interviews and making shocking statements that played into the stereotypes.
These Asians were brought by British here to Uganda. Therefore, the British and those, they are responsible to look after those Asians. Because I have got also difficulty in Uganda of economy.
You say there's no opposition to your rule in this country at the moment. Many people abroad would say that that is because most of your opponents have been removed or have fled.
No, I think you should not listen too much what exile are telling you. You shouldn't. If you want, you come direct to Uganda and get your representative in Kampala so that he can give you accurate information. But I wanted to ask you, are you not afraid of interviewing the conqueror of British Empire as you are British? You are not afraid of...
However, exaggeration does not erase real crimes. While Western media often lacked nuance and cultural context, the core accusations, violence, repression, and abuse of power are supported by testimony from Ugandans, African historians, and international investigators. He was a product of colonial military system, a leader shaped by Cold War politics, a nationalist who distrusted Western power, and a ruler who relied on violence to stay in control. Some Ugandans remembered moments of pride, dignity, and defiance. Many more remember loss, fear, and trauma. In 1979, Amin was overthrown after a disastrous war with Tanzania. He fled into exile and lived in Saudi Arabia until his death in 2003, never facing trial. So was Idi Amin a patriot or a bloodthirsty tyrant? History suggests he was both parts, but not equally. He challenged foreign dominance, yes. He spoke the language of Africa with pride, yes. But patriotism does not excuse mass killings. Anti-imperialism does not justify terror against one's own people. Idi Amin's story is a warning that liberation without accountability can become oppression. That power without restraint destroys nations. And the history is always more complex than the headlines. What do you think? Was Amin misunderstood or was he rightly condemned? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.